Hello everyone, it's Liz from West Star Tarot, and I'm here today to talk about the Judgment card. We are winding up our year-long journey through the major arcana, and we are down to the final two of our top tarot trumps, and today, as I mentioned, it's the Judgment card. And when I first started studying the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, probably about 10 years ago, favorite and Judgment card would have been an oxymoron because I had kind of a dislike of that card. I just saw the heavy-handed, overarching Christian iconography and the judgment, that we were being judged at the end of our lives for how we lived our life by this angel, and that we would pay a price for any of the bad deeds that we did. And so I didn't feel too positive about this card. But as I've gone on to study tarot, and even Arthur Edward Waite, I have here the pictorial key, and he says, it is the card, Judgment, he's speaking of, which registers the accomplishment of the great work of transformation. And so we can think about the fact that it's not so much that we're being judged for how we're living our lives, but, how did we transform? How did we work through the challenges? How did we move beyond the mistakes and the problems that we had in our lives? So that is a way to look at the card. And, I find that a little bit enlightening. I want you to notice my amaryllis here, that I decided to film the video here with the amaryllis in the background because it looks like a trumpet. So anyway, as I branched out from the Rider-Waite-Smith, you all probably know I started with the Mother Peace Tarot decades ago. But I didn't really become a serious student of tarot until about 10 or 12 years ago when I took up the Rider-Waite-Smith. And, as I said, the Christian iconography influenced how I felt about that card. But as I branched out into different types of decks, I began to see the card differently. In fact, one of the cards I'm going to talk about isn't even called Judgment. It's called Awakening. So that's what a lot of guidebooks and cards talk about. A spiritual awakening, a rebirth, a renewal, a growth, an evolution, and, stepping into something new, more than judgment. So I went from not liking that card at all to really becoming fond of it. I like that whole idea of awakening, of transformation, of growing, evolving, and changing. So let me now get into my favorites. I do have 5. It can't be all sweetness in life, can it? So here we have the Next World Tarot by Christy C. Rode, and you can see Judgment. This card has, this deck was published before George Floyd was murdered by the police. And yet you can see that sign says, I can't breathe. But it's really more referencing how capitalism and greed and caring about money over people has changed our environment and produced climate change to the point where we can't breathe. our air is so polluted. There is a Black Lives Matter sign there. And Christy in the guidebook talks a little bit about that. So here's what they have to say. Let your spirit learn from the spirits who've left us. What has defined justice? And so they're associating those two concepts. Peace, chaos, silence, or a riot in the name of peace. The millions march in New York City accentuated the dire need for the Black Lives Movement matter. Black Lives Matter movement. Luna? Judgment is those moments in time where justice prevails. A moment like this where the voices of the unheard are elevated and we start to understand and recognize the violent histories of this country. So Christy's talking about the United States. And I've spoken about this before, I think in the Justice Card video. You know, we were taught that the United States is the greatest country in the world. We are a democracy. You can be born into poverty and become president of the United States or the CEO of a huge corporation. You know, the whole rags to riches thing. But really, can a country that was founded on slavery and genocide and colonialism really be the greatest country in the world? That's something that I am awakening to and have been awakening to now for quite some time, but even more so now. So, judgment is when humanity asks one another, who follows through on the lessons we should have already learned? Who abuses power? And why does it come as no surprise? What lessons have we learned from the untimely, this says deaths, but I think I'm going to say murders of Malcolm X, Dr. King, Michael Brown, Sandra Bland, Trayvon Martin, etc. Judgment is when Fred Hampton. Judgment is when we no longer have to pay a price for wanting authority over our own bodies. It's when the people coalesce toward peace while simultaneously retaliating against the system. Judgment is understanding that equality is vital to peace. So that is one of my favorite justice cards. And I really love what Christy has to say about judgment and the judgment card. All right, next up is the judgment card from the Fifth Spirit Tarot by Charlie Claire Burgess. And you can see there is let's see, where did I put you? There is a real, oh dear, sorry, I'm shaking things up here. There's a echoing of the art from the Rider-Waite-Smith in Charlie's portrayal. Charlie says, judgment is a card of awakening. The penultimate card in the major arcana, it meets us near the end of the journey at a time when we can look back with new eyes, clear with the wisdom of hindsight and experience. When this card appears, it may feel as if a veil is falling from your vision and suddenly everything makes sense. The awakening is the easy part. The hard part is the choice. Many ignore the trumpet's call, afraid of the radical change required. But you're not one of them, are you? Rise, transcend, evolve, meet the challenge. I love that. I love that. I love Charlie's writing about that card. So next up is this one. This is the Judgment card from the Sacerdotito by Stacia Burrington. And someone wants to get in on the video, apparently. So I don't know. I just love this card. It's so different. I love the color palette. I don't know, this card just kind of speaks to me. I feel like this being is like emerging out of this cloak and is seeing the world, coming out of the dark and seeing the world through different eyes, has sort of dropped the cloak that has been blinding them to reality. And I love the pink because I think about that as the heart chakra. And so also they're opening their heart and they're opening themselves to giving and receiving love. So that is Sacerdotito. Okay, the last two are not as heavy as the first two. I haven't picked 5 rough ones. So this is the Judgment card from the Daughters of the Moon Tarot by Fiona Morgan and another whole group of artists. It's called Celebration. So in the guidebook, it says Celebration, Last Judgment. So this is a feminist perspective on the Judgment card. And it ties it into ritual, sisterhood, community, and so forth. So here's what Fiona et al. Have to say. Celebration is our matriarchal symbol for a rite of passage. It shows, I should hold the card up. It shows a community ritual performed by women who have chosen to acknowledge the goddess as their life source. Their temple is the sacred grove. Their songs are spells, and they are their own priestesses. The seeker is undergoing a major personality change. They are letting go of old life patterns and embracing new. This passage could be occurring on numerous levels: a spiritual awakening, a union or separation, a death or a birth, a noticeable change of attitude and outlook, or the physical cycles of age, blood, and seasons. They could be coming out sexually or emotionally in a community of women. Many cards are connected through the factor of change, but Celebration, aka Judgment, emphasizes ritual and indicates profound experiences that can be exhilarating, ecstatic, and even frightening. Often they occur during in-between stages of the soul in that liminal space. Our image shows a celebration and renewal of life. It addresses the sacredness of these very things rejected by patriarchal religions and illustrates structures for experiencing spiritual passage. By reclaiming ritual, we reclaim our power. So I love that one, and I love how there is an awakening, a spiritual awakening, and a connection to community and the goddess and the sacred. So I love that one. Last but not least is the card from the Gaian, and Joanna Powell Colbert has named this card Awakening. Now, this is a deck that is very near and dear to my heart. I love this deck, and I really can name almost any card in this deck and picture it in my mind. I'm so familiar with it, and I've used it so much. And throughout the series of Top Tarot Trumps, several of my choices have come from this deck. But I wanted to say, I had this deck for years before I noticed this face in the sky that's Kuan Yin. Wow, isn't that crazy? And once I saw it, I'm like, how did I not see that? But I think I was just focusing on this. And again, I feel like that circle of people in a ritual echoes the one from the Daughters of the Moon. And that's what I saw more than the Kuan Yin in the sky. And I saw the cranes flying by. But anyway, it is funny, isn't it? How you can have a card or a deck for years and years and years, and all of a sudden one day you see something that you never saw before. To me, that's one of the mysteries and joys of tarot and having more than one deck. So here's what Joanna has to say about awakening, getting conscious. With this card, we awaken, I'm gonna hold it, to a higher level of consciousness on both a personal level and a planetary one. We call upon our hearts. We are called upon to open our hearts to spirit, to live in a more meaningful way, and to participate in the life of our communities. We think globally and act locally. And are aware of the dakinis, angels, and bodhisattvas that are behind the scenes as we work to heal the planet. And thus we see the bodhisattva Kuan Yin in the sky. In this image, a young man opens up to the life of spirit. He has emerged from darkness and is now following the spiral path of the devotee. The compassionate gaze of Kuan Yin, Goddess of Mercy, smiles down upon him. Cranes of peace fly overhead. His community encircles him between the earth and the heavens, creating sacred space where all things are possible. Magic happens. The earth is healed, and so are we. So what a beautiful way to portray this card. And as I said, it has become one of my favorite cards, in particular, this one that from Joanna's deck, the Gaian Tarot. So, judgment, awakening. I think that's what I'd prefer to call it. And as I said, even A.E. Waite called it a card of transformation, not a card of judging and being judged. So anyway, as always, thank you, Masha. I can't believe we have one card left, that we've been working on this beautiful journey for a year now. And it has really made me look closely at the major arcana and how I view those cards and read those cards. So anyway, as always, my friends, peace and love.